Thank you, Amanda. So, like I said, Clyde and Bret have joined us today from Universal Church Directories. We've been talking on and off over the past couple of years. The topic of directories has come up, and a lot of it was kind of put on hold, I think, for many churches during the COVID and when people weren't really at church as much, and people were kind of church hopping a little bit during that time. And now I think we're kind of getting our communities more back together, or at least hopefully in the next few months, it'll become more solid ground for us. So some of the topics I think that some of us were curious about is, are church directories even still relevant? What are the benefits to our parish of having a directory? How do we address some of the privacy issues that people might have with having their contact information available for everyone? And how can this tool still serve our parishes? So I asked Clyde and Bret if they could just maybe give a little short presentation about their work and their experience with the directories. Clyde and I worked together on our last parish directory back in 2014 when he was with Life Touch. And Bret, you were also with Life Touch for a number of years working
26
together,
years,
right? Yeah.
26 years. Yeah, it's crazy.
And now they're both over at Universal Church Directories. Life Touch no longer does the directories. So yeah, so I just thought it would be a good chance for us to hear a little bit about their process and features, and ask any questions that we have about moving forward on something like a directory at our own parishes. All right, so I'll turn it over to Clyde and Bret.
Thank you, Megan. I thought it would be helpful for everyone just to give you kind of an update on the whole church directory industry as a whole, because things have actually changed quite a bit too. Like Megan was saying, Bret and I we both started with Life Touch back in the mid 90s. And we've actually worked with quite a few of you that's in your group over the years too. It's nice to see some friendly faces. In the 90s, Life Touch didn't have a church directory company, or division, I should say. They actually acquired a company called United Church Directories out of Ohio that started in 1963. So it was pretty much United and Olin Mills were the two national companies that were doing directories. Life Touch acquired United Church Directories in the mid 90s, right around when Bret and I had started. And that company was actually owned by Del Ballou and Nelson Jones. Jeff Ballou, who's actually the owner of Universal Church Directories, who we're with now, that was his father. So Jeff actually started in this whole industry when he was 15 years old, working with his dad. When Life Touch acquired his dad's company, for 3 years, he was the liaison of transferring his dad's company over to Life Touch. And after 3 years, that contract was up. He's back in Ohio. All he knows is church directories, and he's not even 40 years old yet. So he's like, what am I going to do now? He recognized some things that Life Touch wasn't necessarily doing for churches that were real important to him and his dad as they built their company. And he thought, you know what, I'm just going to start another church directory company. So in 2003, he started Universal Church Directory and kept it pretty regional to Ohio. Then they expanded into Indiana, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, expanded relatively slow. They pretty much stayed out of Minnesota completely. They knew Life Touch kind of had this market. But as over the years, they were into Wisconsin and Iowa. In 2000, in March, with the pandemic was ramping up, Life Touch, we put everything on hold. All our churches were suspended from photography. We were laid off till about June, and we worked another month or two. And then in December of 2000, Life Touch decided just to close the church division permanently. And that was December 6th. There was about 350 of us that were affected with that change. Fortunately, Universal was aware of this, and they called Bret and I, Paul Swanson, Bart Hawkinson. 4 of the 5 reps from Life Touch that serviced Minnesota all work for Universal now. One person, she decided to pursue a different career. And we've been able to then also, our good photographers that worked with us for years, they now work for Universal. So the transition actually was pretty smooth in that respect. And what I like about Universal, they do have many more features and benefits to the program than at Life Touch. It seemed, we had a lot of these options 20 years ago, but every 5 years we kept losing parts of our program. And it came down to basically all we had at the end was a directory, which is still the core part of the program. But what I like about Universal, there's much more flexibility on what the church needs as part of the program. So that's pretty much just the background of what's happened. We started in April, I did, and with Universal and churches, we filled up. I had 9 months of photography, for example, in 2000 that never got photographed due to the pandemic. So I was already communicating with a lot of those folks that just hang tight. I'll be starting up here in April. And that's what a lot of the photography that we've been doing last year. And then we've got, we're booked up pretty solid for this year already too. The churches are recognizing it is a good time to actually do a directory program. It gives you an opportunity to invite people back, reconnect with people that haven't been coming as often due to the pandemic. So that's just part of that too. I'm going to have Bret also explain some different features of the program, and then we'll also in detail, Megan, go over some of the items also that you had mentioned us to talk about, if that's fine, okay? And then we can open it up for some questions and that kind of thing.
Is that my cue?
That's your cue, Bret.
Hi, Michaela.
Hi, Brett. Good to see you.
It's great to see you too. I was wondering if you're going to be on here. So, yeah, it's been a strange journey. 26 years with Life Touch, and our Christmas present in 2020 was closing down. So it was kind of a rough Christmas. And then Jeff called us in January or so, and like I started in April of last year, also like Clyde did. So it's been great because Life Touch was making some decisions along the way. They had been acquired. We were employee owned when we started, and then they went public, bought by Shutterfly. Shutterfly got bought by a larger holding company called Apollo, and they were making some decisions that were pretty difficult for me to deal with ethically, actually, because my standard of care is high, and I know Clyde's is too, and they had taken all of that away from us by the end. So it's been a blessing. Rough Christmas, great January, great year, and the future is looking really good. So I just want to do a quick overview. I guess I'm sure everybody knows this, but the directories, the whole program is free to the church. There's no cost to the church. Each sitting that we photograph gets an 8x10 portrait. They also get a free directory. And then we give the church extra directories in addition to that, so they can hand them out to new members and people that don't get photographed. It's very similar to Life Touch. So Megan had asked some specific questions that I kind of want to address, like Clyde said too. Benefits and relevancy, it's actually been a question for a lot of years. And, the purpose in today's church world is the way Megan said it. People still want to connect names and faces. I actually had a pastor say to me, it's in the Bible, we're supposed to love our neighbors. And how do you love your neighbor if you don't know who they are? So I thought that was kind of cool. But so people have been hanging out at home and watching Mass online, streaming Mass, and the directory program is a good way to get them engaged back into the church, even if it's just coming in for a portrait. The whole process of getting people signed up, having them come in for the portraits, the connection during the sign-up process is a benefit in itself, because again, people have kind of been still with the church, but not kind of away, so this is a way to get them back engaged again. I just made a little list here of other benefits of the program. Sometimes a lot of churches have a lot of different masses, and people don't know each other at the different masses because they go to the same mass and sit in the same pew. And so this is a way for people in different masses to get to know each other. And now a lot of churches are clustering together, one priest or two with different parishes. And so we have a cool program that it's a rotating spiral directory, and I won't get into too many details, but each parish basically gets their own book, but they're bound together with their own covers and activity pages and rosters and all that. And that way they can kind of see who's in the other parish that's clustered with them and yet still maintain their own identity. So branding, I think, is a benefit too, because you guys are church communicators, so branding is a big deal to you all, I'm sure. So, the printed materials, the directories themselves, sorry about that. The directories themselves, you can incorporate your branding into the directory. We also offer other things with the program that Life Touch had done in the past and quit doing, like trifold brochures, greeting cards. I actually had a church do a big, I don't know if you guys can see this. It's not going to work. Maybe it will. So they did a brochure like this. Most people, when they think of brochures, they think of a one-page brochure. but we did like 4 one-page brochures and stapled them all together and made a brochure like this for them. So, and you can incorporate your branding into that. Those are all things that are part of the program that you can earn depending on how you want to structure what you get. So, let's see, it's a good tool for priests still, as always. It's another benefit, as you know, you guys change out in July a lot of times. So a new priest comes in, and a directory is a great way for them to get to know the names and the faces. And a lot of times we'll do a new directory right when a new priest comes in too. So in addition to being a good tool for the priests, it's good for the whole parish staff and even the members too, you know. Another thing that people don't think about a lot of times is it's a good portrait opportunity for parishioners, because once people get a portrait done through a church directory, they tend to wait until the next church directory to get another family portrait. So Clyde has a great story about his grandpa. I don't know if you want to tell that story real quick, Clyde, but
Oh yeah, sure.
I'll put you on the spot.
No, that's fine. So
Oh, you're muted.
I grew up in North Dakota, and my grandparents were farmers, and my
Thank you,
grandma
John.
told me this
Oh, my
story
speakers.
after I had started with Life Touch, and she asked my grandpa about getting together to do a family portrait in the 80s, and he wasn't real interested to go into the studio and do all that. And so she didn't really push it. About 3 years after that, United Church Directories was scheduled to do a directory program at their Baptist church, which both were very involved in. And then she saw that as a great opportunity to get a family portrait. So she asked him about that. And all he said is, when do we go in? Was that since it was tied to the church and part of the church, it worked out well. And our family, we have that portrait obviously to this day. And if it wasn't for a church directory program, we wouldn't have that nice family portrait of my grandpa and grandma. So you are offering a service, like Bret said, when it comes to photography. And if you think about too, the opportunities, you'd think now there would be more opportunities. There is with us, your phones and things like that. But to get an actual quality portrait done with your family, if you drove out to Wilmer, 20 years ago, you'd see a small private studio on Main Street in each little town. And unfortunately, most of those are gone now. Even in the malls, you don't see the studios. So like Bret said, doing the directory, you are giving a good service to the families to take advantage of getting a nice portrait for their families. So.
Thanks, Clyde. Yeah, and then the last thing on my list here for benefits, I mean, I know there's more, but it becomes a historical document for the parish too, and it's a free service. So it's a good way to document that time in your history. So I've always been a fan of that. Megan asked about resources for getting started. One of the main resources is going to be me or Clyde. So like I said, Life Touch had taken away a lot of the service. I mean, basically, we'd come in and say, "Hey, Michaela, you want to do a directory? Sure. Okay, great. Ernie's going to call you. He lives in Oregon. He's going to help you pick your dates. He's going to help you sign people up. And then I'm going to call you back in 5 years and see if you want to do a directory again." And, over the years, it's always been where I'm the point guy all the way through, and Clyde is the same way. And it's back to that again. So I think one of the main resources for you guys is us. We come out, we run an in-person organizational meeting. We have posters, we have newsletter inserts, we have bulletin inserts, we do online scheduling. A lot of the parishes I'm working with are incorporating Flocknote. So I know you guys use Flocknote, a lot of them. And we do an automated pastor call. So there's a lot of resources to get the whole thing started. One thing about the core committee, I always recommend finding a committee somewhere from within the parish. Sometimes parish staff wants to be involved and they want their hand, I can do it best, so I'm going to do it kind of thing, but it's a struggle a lot of times because parish administrators and people in the office have a lot to do already, and it's just kind of piles on top of that. I've worked with some parishes where the parish council is the committee. I think I have another one that's going to sign up pretty soon here doing that now. Sometimes the stewardship committee is a good resource. And sometimes just looking for volunteers in the church is a good resource too. And we have bulletin inserts that you can run through a week or two or whatever you want to do that say, "Hey, we're considering doing a new directory. Would you be interested in helping us with it? We need your help." And that ties into stewardship too, which I think is another benefit. Even, people are going to help with the directory itself, time, talent, and then even people coming in for their portraits are actually contributing their time and contributing to the parish in that way too. So I like to tie that into it because I think it's true. Process wise, first thing we do is figure out if you want to do a directory. And then we pick photography dates and we back it back to 6-8 weeks, something like that, and run an organizational meeting with you. And that's when we do it. And then the photographers come in. It's just like it was with Life Touch, where they come in, they get photographed, they look at their portraits, they pick the one for the directory, they order extras if they want to. If they don't want to, they don't have to. And then after the photography is done, we come back in and run a layout meeting, a design meeting with you guys. And the design meeting isn't where we design the directory. It's to help you guys, give you input on what you have designed, and make sure you're on the right track and help you get it all shipped away to production. Having said that, we do have a program where you give us all your pictures and we'll design it for you. So I haven't used that because in my mind, I'd rather have the personalization from someone from the parish, really incorporate your branding and whatever you want to do into the directory itself. But we do have that service if anybody is interested or concerned about volunteer workload for that. So the other thing Megan asked for was touching on some of the current features that help to enhance the mission of parishes through this program. So one of the things I think is great is database images. We'll give you guys a CD of all the directory poses that we take, and then you can incorporate them into ParishSoft or Connect Now or whatever it is that you're using, PDF sometimes. So I think that's a good feature that helps enhance the mission of the parish. Another thing that I really like is an app. Life Touch had a mobile directory that was not awesome, but I had a lot of people that were interested in it and used it. But now at Universal, we have an app, and the front page of the app actually links back to the whole parish website. So it's got buttons for church announcements, streaming services. They can call or email the church. There's a staff page. There's online giving. There's a parish calendar. It also links back to the parish website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, if you have those. If you don't have any of that functionality, then we don't put the buttons on the front of it. And then one of the buttons too is, the reason we don't put the buttons there is because if somebody goes to that button and clicks on it, it doesn't work, we don't want to think it's broken. So we just don't put them on there. The other button on there is a directory button, and the directory button has two views. One is a listing of everyone, just names, and it's searchable. And the other one is a picture view. So it just has all the pictures. I always think it should turn off during Mass, but I can't make that happen because I picture people scrolling through it during Mass going, who's that over there? I know them. So, but the great thing, one of the great things about these apps, our app, is that you guys can add new profiles as you get new members, and you can also add photos. So with Life Touch, we were never able to add photos, and actually it wasn't a true app. It was a web-based program. So this is actually an app, and you guys can add photos. The parishioners can't. You guys assign an administrator. But the great thing about that is as you get new members, you can put in their new profile, put their picture in there, tell your council, say, hey, the Johnsons are going to be here on Sunday. Make sure you say hi to them. And it's a way to get the parish a little bit more connected that way too. And another thing too is it's a way to get your directory complete as time goes on, because everybody knows not everybody comes in for portraits. So somebody can just snap a picture of them at church, give them to the app administrator, and then you can keep the directory current and updated that way too. Hopefully over time it'd be complete, but we can hope. So some parishes are keeping this internally for staff and leadership only. Others are making it parishioner facing. It's up to you guys. Everybody gets their own unique code, and you guys decide whether you want to hand those out to people or not. So sometimes it's just the pastor that gets it, but you guys are in control of that. So you decide how you want to do it. So I think that's a huge thing that is really big, especially for younger people. If you do decide to make it parishioner facing, a lot of younger people don't even want printed books. They would rather have it digitally. So printed materials is another thing too. The brochures like the one I showed you, We also do welcome packets. We do individual trifold brochures. St. Mary's Star of the Sea in Duluth actually did a brochure just for their Adoration Chapel. So there's things that you don't really think about. Maybe do it for your school if you have a school. So there's things that maybe wouldn't jump into your mind as far as the parish directory goes that would help the parish through the free stuff that we can give you. And then yeah, I guess I want to say one thing. So a lot of people, when you say church directory, they think work, and parishes that I've worked with that have been the most successful approach this as an opportunity, and the work that it takes to capitalize on that opportunity is just part of the deal. So if you come in thinking, oh my gosh, it's a lot of work, we're never going to be able to do this, it's going to be a little harder than it would be if you come in going, wow, what a great opportunity to connect with everybody in the parish, let them know we're still here, let them know the pandemic is ongoing, but we're still, we're still a community and we want you to be a part of it. So I think that's important. So I said a lot of stuff really fast. Does anybody have any questions? Or Clyde, do you have anything to add? Or Megan,
No, I
did I
think you
miss
can-
anything?
So you were talking a little bit about an app and a welcome packet and some different things that might come along with it.
Yeah.
Now, as you're creating the directory, you get a certain number of points, right? For
Yep.
families that are photographed, however many as that are photographed, and that's how you can provide those types of things for free. Is that right?
It is. I was not sure about how much time and I wanted to kind of not do too much, but yeah, I'd love to talk about that. So with Life Touch, we would give you, say, 6 pages and 2 credits. And then you got 6 pages for your staff, your history, whatever. And it depended on how many we photographed, not necessarily 6. And then the credits you could use for brochures if we had them back in the old days, or more directories or more pages or whatever. With Universal, you just get the credits and 0 pages. But the credits get you the pages and it's equitable. Sometimes it's actually better, where if you wanted to do the pages, you could do as many pages as you would have done with Life Touch. But sometimes with Life Touch, parishes will call me and say, hey, I don't want to do 6 pages. Can I do 3 pages and get brochures instead? And I'd have to say no. So now you guys are in control with what you want to do with the credits that you earn. You could do all pages, you could do some pages, the app, some brochures. So it is dependent on how many you photograph, but you pretty much can, you can get what you need most of the time. So unless you need a 75-page brochure, and you can always spend money, but my goal has always been to make it free for you. So did that answer your question? I can get more specific if you want me to.
Nope, that answers my question.
Okay.
Does anyone else have questions?
Well, yeah, let me ask one if I could, and it's just to tailor off or peel off what you asked, Megan. And I was just trying to understand, and just it's the way my business mind works. So it's free to the families, it's free to the church, the directories and all that. So the question that I was thinking as you were presenting was, where do you guys make your money? But it's in all of the other ancillary items available. Am I right?
Nope, the ancillary items are free, depending on how many we photograph.
Okay.
We make our money, we sell pictures.
Okay, so it's in the extra pictures that a family might order.
If they want to.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so
They'd like to.
so it's kind of a spec type situation. Okay.
Yep. We don't
Thank
always
you.
make money.
No, I get that. Okay. And then you might have said it earlier and I missed it. How often do churches update directories? How often do they go through this process? Did you say every 5 years-ish, or?
Clyde,
3 to 5 years is probably about the average. Catholic parishes, 5 years, probably more on the average. A lot of it depends on change at the church. Like Bret had said earlier, if there's a new pastor, if there's an anniversary, there's different parts. Now with the pandemic, I had a number of churches that were pushed out by a year or two because of that. But on average, 3 to 5 years seems to work real well.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What's
I have a
that?
question.
Oh.
Go ahead, Jody.
Okay. What's a normal timeline? So when somebody says, I think we'd like to do this, what's your usual, like from the introductory call to like the end? Is it a couple months? Is it, a year? What's your normal sort of start to finish?
Well, sometimes I get a call that they say we want to do photography in 2 weeks, which is very unusual, but that's so it's easier to maybe if I start from the organizational meeting to directory delivery. Okay. And I will say my goal, I'm always booking 6 months out, so people call me, even now, if somebody calls me and says, hey, I want to do photography in April, it would be difficult because I'm so full. And Clyde, same thing. So right now I'm booking, I still have May and June, I'm booking fall, and July just filled up. So I think they might add another camera, but anyway, I'd like to touch on that. So from the organizational meeting, let's say we run it 8 weeks before photography. Okay. So that's 2 months. And then we do photography. Let's say we do 2 weeks. Okay. Our work week is generally Tuesday through Saturday. So Tuesday hours are 2 to 8:30, Saturdays 10:30 to 5, just so you know. So if we did 2 Tuesday through Saturday weeks, say, I won't do months. So we do organizational meeting 8 weeks before photography. Photography is 2 weeks. So let's say that's 10 weeks. Okay. And then personally, I always set the organizational meeting, the layout design meeting for a week after photography. And I make up a 3-week after photography deadline to keep people on track. There is no real deadline, but they flag sometimes if you don't set expectations. So let's say you get your layout turned in a month after photography to make it easy. So now we're at 11 weeks.
14.
2, 3. Yeah, thanks, Clyde. Math is hard. I was a physics major too. So then once we get things into production, it's what we call a 2020 turnaround, which means 20 working days after we get the layout and whatever of the material, we'll just say to make it easy. Once we get the materials checked in, 20 working days later, Universal ships a proof book to you. You proof it, ship it back, and then it's 20 working days again to get the directories. So it's 2 months in-house once we get the stuff from you guys. So from start to end, that sounds like it adds up to about 6 months. Is that right, Clyde?
Yeah.
We got 2 months and then
4 to 6 months.
1.5, 3, and then 2 for proofing, and then mailing time and things like that. Yeah, 4 to 6 months. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I had a second question. When it comes to people's information and maybe quality of information,
Oh, yeah.
Is there like a whole process of asking people permission and then also asking them just literally to like verify their phone numbers and addresses and stuff?
Yeah, that's part of the organizational process where I always recommend, and sometimes I wanted to address the privacy issue that you mentioned, Megan, I forgot, but I always recommend having a printout of the parish roster at the back of the church during Mass. And whether they're going to get photographed or not, say, hey, we're doing a new directory and what's back there is what's going to go in it. So if it's wrong, please fix it for us, because nobody calls the church when they move or they change their phone number or whatever. So as far as asking permission, if I have had parishes do that, and I always recommend making it an opt-out rather than an opt-in, because if you make it an opt-in, nobody's going to call you. If you make it an opt-out, then they're going to say, oh yeah, I don't want my information in there, or don't include my email or my address or things like that. So the roster information at the back of the directory comes out of your database. It's an export. Information that we'll put in is last name, parents' names, kids' names, address, 3 phone numbers, 2 emails. Parishes don't all think that's good. Actually, Father Moriarty only did names at St. Agnes and St. Paul. So to me, this is a connection piece. The app is populated by what you put in your roster. Then you can, if somebody doesn't want their information in the app, you guys can take it out. But if you look at it as a connection tool, then I think the names and addresses are important. The privacy issue is a parish by parish decision, and it's different everywhere. So did that answer your question, Jody?
100%.
Okay, and Megan too? Because you were asking about privacy concerns.
So I have a question of how do we, so I mean, nowadays, I think that I totally agree with the older families that maybe you wouldn't get grandpa to go take a picture unless it's directed to the church. Younger families now are taking pictures outside, swinging their kids, and they want that fun and kind of more relatable pictures and not the stiff photography pictures. How do you entice those younger families to come and take pictures? Because I can just hear them say, why would I come? Yeah, maybe come and get a free one, but yet now they've got to work around basketball, and now they've got to work around all of their schedules. And it's stressful for moms to make sure their outfits match and everything. And how would we entice them young families to want to come and get their pictures taken with a more stoic picture?
Yeah. Well, we're trying not to make them so stoic first. It's still a portrait, it's a directory portrait in a studio. So yeah, that's definitely something that we talk about. And it's just, I think it comes back to the connection and being a part of the parish and contributing to the parish is the way to appeal to those guys, because that's maybe going to be more important to them than coming in and getting a family portrait in a studio. So Clyde, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging. You're right, with digital photography and people doing a lot of outdoor and different things like that. Again, with what Bret had said regarding, again, encouraging them to be part of the church family, put that more as the front of it, I think would really help. Numerous churches have family that's related, and we do lots of generation photography. So that's another great reason. If a young family goes to the parish, if their grandparents go there, their parents go there, encourage them to sign up back to back. We'll photograph both households for the directory, but then on that last sitting, we'll do a generation photo for them. And that's another good way to bring in some of the younger families, especially if they've got relatives that attend the parish also. That's worked
Even if they
well.
don't attend the parish, they could still
Right.
come in and do a generational portrait like that.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you at all ever opt? I mean, obviously it's weather pending, but if it's a nice Saturday, could we offer outside photography and have that be an option, but the inside is backup? And do you offer that at all?
We actually tested that at Life Touch about 7-8 years ago. And again, weather was challenging. What we did is we actually set up a studio inside like we normally do, but then we had a remote studio set up outside. And then we would give the family the option if they would like to go outside. And then it's doable. We haven't tested it at Universal yet, so we can definitely discuss that with them for this upcoming summer. But again, the nice thing about Universal too, that's a little different than Life Touch, Universal only works with churches. And when we were at Life Touch, a lot of times, they were focusing on schools and preschools and studios, and the church division was doing their thing. And what's nice at Universal, it's only churches. So we want to look at these options. So it's just a matter of testing it and having the proper lighting and things. It went well at Life Touch. The biggest challenge was, like you mentioned, is weather.
Right.
And you schedule them, but you just let them know if the weather permitting is basically how you go about doing it. And I can get some more information on that, discuss it with our manager, and see where we're at. We've already brought it up to them about it, so it's doable.
And can families submit their own photos?
Absolutely. If they're not able to come into the parish to be photographed, they can go to another parish too, by the way, as an option.
Okay.
And a lot of churches take advantage of that. I scheduled a church in Wilmer, went over to the other Lutheran church, and they wanted to schedule right back to back with the other Lutheran church because they were smaller. That way they could go to that other church for, they had 5 days, the one had 2 days. And they sent people back and forth and they wind up in their correct directory. It works out great. You can submit a photo. With credits, you can cover up to 8 of them at no cost. Then after that, in a standard book, they're 15 a piece. And most churches and parishes just have the family pay the 15. Some churches do decide to pay for it out of the church funds. If it's shut-ins, nursing home folks, you kind of look at it as a certain situation. We do automatically put them in alphabetically in the book, and they do receive a book then. We print an extra book for them. So they see the value a lot of times of paying the 15 because they know they're getting a book. So, yeah.
And that mobile app, we would be able to insert families at no cost, or is there still that cost?
Absolutely. I don't know if you can see it on my phone, but there it is. Absolutely. As administrator, you'd be able to add profiles and then add images of new families. And like Bret had said, at LifeTouch, they would not allow an image into any of the electronic products if it was not a LifeTouch image. Universal's fine if you do that in between programs. And by the way, how the app works, it's 2 credits to get it. There's no monthly fees. There's no setup charge. After that, we keep it set up for you for 4 years. And after 4 years, all we ask is, as long as your parish uses Universal to do your next program, we'll keep it up at no charge. And then we would update it at that time. You wouldn't necessarily need to pick dates right at 4 years. As long as we have a commitment that your next program is going to be with us, we'll keep it up and going. You can really build on it. I can really see it. And a lot of our churches are getting it now. And when they do their next program, they're going to be able to build on it, update from there. And again, you have the ability to add people in between the programs. So you can keep it much more up to date.
So if a family takes it the first time and 4 years later you do an update, but they don't get a picture, does their old picture stay in? Or do you clean it out?
I think you as an administrator, you could do that, but I think, wouldn't we leave it in, Bret? Do you know?
I'm not sure about that.
Good question. That's a good
We're
question.
almost a year into this.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny because we were both the answer people with LifeTouch. Both of us were on the advisory board. I mean, and now we're the question people.
That's a great question, Amanda. I will find that out.
Okay, thank you.
They leave. Yeah.
I think that's all I had.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question. How do you guys communicate? Like, what's your main means of communication for parishes now? What do you do to connect your families and kind of build a community?
As far as like communicating events going on in the parish or connecting them as people to each other?
Connecting them as people to each other and the leadership too.
Well, I can only speak for our parish, but I think that's an area that we need to build upon. And we just got a brand new priest, and we're hopeful that we can kind of start moving in a new direction of finding ways to reconnect people. And, you know, something like a directory might be a good start. And we can use the new priest being able to say, hey, he wants to know faces.
Yeah.
Please, let's do something like this. So
that works too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any great ideas you're doing?
I don't have great ideas. I can tell you COVID complicated things deeply for us. One thing that was really special that came out of being shut down and sort of trying to figure out what we can do is we had a number of older parishioners come together and make phone calls. So they had this like elaborate phone tree system where they called everyone over. They had an age and I don't remember what it was. And it was mostly positive, but it also kind of shined a light on, when I started, I was very overwhelmed at like how to prioritize what needed to happen. And so our last photo directory was 2015. And then in between years, they would put this booklet together with everyone's information in it. And the last one was maybe 2018. And when I came in, I came from not church world. And so I immediately was like, whoa, we can't be sending everyone's personal information to everybody's house without permission. No way. And so I haven't done that booklet. And here we are getting all these people saying like, this phone number doesn't work. And then out of that, even like our database, a number of our phone numbers, people have stopped having landlines. We don't necessarily have their cell phone. Our email activities have gained, but even then too, we have people who are really sensitive about their privacy. And so I feel sort of this pull to need to do something to provide information to people, but then also this fear of like literally people coming forward and saying like, please don't share my stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm really confused what to do. I see the value, but I don't know how to handle it. So I'm really happy we're having this discussion and to hear what other people are doing, because I feel like we're sort of failing, but it's not a clear path.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some luck in terms of connecting people through Flocknote. We've set up, families will be in different groups for their faith formation classes, for example, and then they can reach out to each other through that group. But there are limitations, obviously, with that, and they're not. We hesitate to make too many people note senders, because that can also then give them some admin status where they're receiving emails about different offerings that Flocknote has and things like that. So just so you know, other communicators here who have Flocknote, that can happen, and it was something that surprised us when it happened. But also, we had a photo directory from a few years back that was available digitally only, and you had to be a part of it in order to see it. But then the company that took all the photographs shut down with COVID, and then the company that hosted it shut down during COVID. And so now it's just gone, and we weren't notified about it until April, when someone was trying to log into it, and then had reached out to us and said, well, why can't I log in? It took probably a month and a half for me to even reach anyone that could tell me, oh yeah, we're no longer a company. So
that wasn't LifeTouch?
No.
it was not
No.
like that.
Wow.
Somebody else.
Yeah.
So I guess I do have a quick question for you guys. With all of this, I did hear you say, Bret, that we would get a CD of the pictures. What kind of I don't know, assurance, I guess, is there? Like you said, we have the app for 4 years. What kinds of assurances are there in that for us?
That we're not going to shut down and lose your app.
People, or it'll remain available to people, or we'll
Sure.
have some type of ownership of it.
Yeah.
So that
I've actually had conversations with the administrator, and I didn't get a straight answer that they would completely shut you guys out after 4 years. Basically, the support wouldn't be there anymore, and the functionality may not be as good, but for sure you've got it for 4 years, and I think it would keep going more than that. As far as what assurances I have for you, Jeff's already been doing it since he was 15. This company has been here since 2003, and it's going very strong. So I guess that's the only assurance I can give you.
Yeah. Do we maintain any ownership of the app? Like I know it's run through your server, but like other than admin privileges, is it anything like we have full access to it, I guess is the question I'm asking.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Parishioners have access to the end user, side of it. And then you guys assign an administrator, and that person has, or people, has all the backdoor stuff. So
Can I add one piece into here? So you also then, like you say, if you get the images along with the app, then you'll have those for your own use. So you'll have those indefinitely. So if you get all the directory images from us, you'd be able to use them, down the road. So that's what I would suggest maybe doing too. Not only getting the app, but then also get the images from us from the directory digitally on a CD or a flash drive, and then you'd have them. And you have permission then to use them too. So for example, your staff images you can use on your website, that kind of thing. Okay.
I have a couple comments, I guess. Can you just link the database of the photos and names to your website without doing the app?
Brett, do you want to go on that?
You know who might know the answer to that is Rhonda Miska. Hi, Rhonda. So,
What?
because you're the tech guru that I know of, I think if you're the Rhonda Miska that I'm thinking you are, maybe I'm wrong. So I'm probably wrong. So Michaela, no, I mean, I think that's something that's completely separate, even from a directory. You know, whether you'd be able to link any kind of images or anything like that to the web, you'd have to have some kind of a hosting platform to do it. If you're talking about the app, the answer is no. So does that answer it?
I mean, your pictures that you take, like say the pages, do I have permission? Do I have permission from your company?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Anything parish related, you've got complete rights to. We just don't want people going and printing 8x10 for grandma, you know?
Yeah.
So
Another, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to comment that we had the CD from our last directory, and it's come in really handy with funerals.
Yeah.
That we were able to use the picture for the worship aid, and people have really liked our directories. We had a 2010 one. We had a couple extra boxes of them, and we were just going to throw them out, and we decided to just put them out, and it was a weekday and they were gone within.
Oh, wow.
So I think it's a big project, but our parish really seems to like it a lot, and it does help build community quite a bit. So we're getting a new pastor, so I feel like things really change drastically with a new pastor. So I'm kind of wondering, maybe it would be good to wait till he's a little bit settled in before we do a directory.
Is he coming in July?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it doesn't look, so the directory doesn't look out of date or misplaced, within a year or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there's two thoughts on that from what I've found over the years. One is, well, first of all, I definitely wait until after he gets there. But whether you want to wait a year after he gets there or not, I'm not sure. One of the thoughts that I've dealt with over the years is, the process of getting people scheduled, the photography events, the whole thing all the way through is a way for the new priest to get to meet everybody and get to know them as they come through. And then he's got a good resource for himself sooner rather than later. And the other line of thought is what you were saying, maybe you wait until the dust settles and see how things change in the parish and do it. So it's a parish decision, but there's benefits to both, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay.
I can see the benefits to both. I'm thinking in my head of waiting until 2023, because when you have priests that leave, and some people like the old priest, but some people didn't, so they went to other churches, like maybe wait a year until we've kind of, like you said, the dust settles. People have heard maybe they like this one, they want to, and then we kind of know maybe who's going to be here for the next 5 years while he's here 6 years. So if we wait a year, then maybe the directory would be valid for a while with parishioners that might want to stick around if they like him. It's so hard with that challenge. But I do have a question. Is there an option for parishioners? Now so many photographers are allowing you the ability to buy kind of those rights, so you can post them on Facebook, or you can go buy them, those canvas and things like that for dirt cheap, but obviously that's how you make your money. But is there an option for them to buy those rights? Is that one of the packages that parishioners have?
Absolutely. And they can even get a low resolution image, or say they just want to use it on their LinkedIn or something like that. And that image is just emailed to them. It's not even produced. And then we have the high resolution images. They can get them of all of the images that we take during their sitting. Absolutely, they can get that. Then they have the rights to use them any way they'd like. Yeah,
Okay.
good question.
And you mentioned the, like, having it for like your LinkedIn, so you could have family pictures, but then they could do individuals if like the husband and wife each needed a professional image or passport photos or whatever.
Absolutely. And a lot of times the photographer will talk with the family to find out if there's any special needs for posing. A lot of times if somebody's a realtor, mom's a realtor, she needs an updated professional portrait for her new business card, we'll take a single of her then. Absolutely. So, yeah.
One thing is, you mentioned passport pictures. They have to be on a white background, so I wouldn't want
Ours
to
wouldn't
promise that
work
we
for
could do
that, I don't
passport
think.
pictures. Yeah.
Okay. And that's not a backdrop you guys have?
No.
Well, there's a new idea for you.
Yeah, you know, somebody could just say, hey, wait, there's a poster board on the wall over there, and go grab it.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be easy enough.
But I'm not making any promises.
Does anybody have any sense of participation rates by their parish? I mean, do you get a sense that you get 80% of the people participating, or, you know, that kind of thing? I'm just curious.
That seems really high to me.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I don't have any numbers. I'm just asking.
Yeah.
what I've seen over the past 25 years, again, there's always exceptions, but I think with most Catholic parishes, and a lot of it depends on who you count as a family. That affects those numbers quite a bit greatly too. But I think a lot of times if they get 50% to 70%, I feel that that's a success. And then if they're doing consistent programs where they're doing them, you know, every 3 to 5 years, then they can build on that. So that's kind of, Brett, do you use that kind of the numbers you see with the Catholic communities? Okay.
Yeah, the larger the parish, the lower the percentage, unfortunately. And sometimes it depends too, like he said, like Clyde said, you know, what do you consider a family? Because a lot of times, you know, you've got 3,000 people on the parish roster, but there's 500 coming to church, you know, so.
Well, I think it's an opportunity to clean up databases too, because
Oh,
you
absolutely.
make 3-4 connections with them saying, hey, you haven't signed up yet. You know, we've now contacted you 4 times. Are you even a parishioner? You know?
Absolutely agree.
It's a great time to do all that.
Yeah. And that actually something Jody said, I think it was Jody, about the calling, you know, you guys had all the calling tree and everything like that. It's something that I promote with every program that I do, is call people that haven't signed up. And sometimes I get this, you know, like, no, but I mean, it really, again, it depends on how you approach it. If you approach it as a way to connect with everybody in the parish, it's huge. Jody's lucky because she already has the tree set up, but I guess it does only go down to a certain age. But actually, a lot of times, well, I won't say that. I was going to say a lot of times the older folks are the ones that maybe don't have access to online scheduling or things like that, or don't check their emails or flock notes. So that might be better. But then again, the younger families are another topic. So anyway, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, not to discount Clyde's numbers of the 50 to 70. Do any of you do any of you at your parishes have a sense of participation when you've done it at all? I mean,
I can't give you the accurate numbers because our database was so outdated the last time we did it. I mean, if you looked at what our database was compared to the number of pictures, it's probably at 25%. But we've cleaned up our database so much. That's something we've been slowly working on the last couple of years. But even then, you keep working on it, and I bet there's still 500 people that probably are questionable, if even parishioners, in our database. So it's just constantly needing to clean it up.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
So if it depends on what number you're looking at, total parishioners in our database versus who we actually think are active
families.
People. Yeah.
I was just curious if anybody had a handle on it, you know, as opposed to, hey, let's do the program, and then we have no idea how many participated and how many didn't, and what the ROI, so to speak, is on the effort. You know, that's all. I was just curious.
It's a great question though, Chris, because that's what Brett and I have to do each time we schedule a church. We photograph an average 30 families a day. So the first step to get you scheduled is to make a good guesstimate on how many days for the church. And so we deal with that. A lot of times the last directory is a good starting point. But then we had this pandemic now, which has affected things too. So it's a matter of having a conversation. Each church is a little different, but that's a starting point.
About how much time do you spend with each family?
The appointment slots are 10-minute time slots for families of 5 and under. 6 and over, they're 20-minute slots. But we have 2 people there photographing, and then they're also going to then show the images to the family, and they're going to take turns using the same studio. So they could be with them anywhere from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. I would say the average would be closer to, 20, 30 minutes, pending the family and what their needs are and interests are, on ordering.
Can you talk a little bit about what the volunteer commitment is? I remember when we did it, we needed, a couple volunteers for every time we had families coming in to check in. So it was kind of a lot of coordination for that piece of it.
Yeah, great question. Bret, do you want to go through that, or?
Sure. Picture day, we don't have to have greeters, but I think it's important to have greeters, and I say we need greeters, but if you guys can't get them, then that's okay. The photography sessions are about 6.5 hours, 2 to 8:30. So I actually make a schedule. I don't know if Clyde does or not. Some do, some don't. But I split it into 2 shifts, about 3.5 hours each or so, a little less, 3 hours, 15 minutes, something like that. And so 1 or 2 people per shift. So if you did 1 per shift, that's 2 per day. We did 4 per shift, that's 4 per day. So, and again, I think I might have mentioned the bulletin inserts that we have, the volunteer bulletin inserts that we also have. We're going to do a directory sign up bulletin inserts, but we have bulletin inserts you can run in the beginning that say, hey, we need help doing this. Please contact parish office if you'd like to help. And that's really helped to get those volunteers, because that's not a big, it's not a huge workload for them. Sometimes, depending on the personality, it might be better to have 2 of them than 1. They're volunteers, they can do no wrong is what I always say, but sometimes it's a little tough. So, and then, the core committee, really, 3 people is a good number for the core committee. Holy Spirit with Nadine, she's not here, but she's on this committee. The parish council was the committee there, and I thought that was really awesome. So, and that was 7 or 8 people. But 3 or 4 people, the main things they're responsible for are kind of umbrellas of publicity, scheduling, and layout. The publicity is almost a once and done, so the workload isn't high. It's things like putting up posters, incorporating newsletter inserts, if you do newsletters. By the way, too, we have everything digitally. So if you don't mail paper newsletters, then I give you both either way, unless you don't want the paper. And then incorporating the bulletin inserts into the bulletins. Then that's the publicity part for the most part. The scheduling is the biggest workload for the volunteers as far as getting people signed up. The online schedule is up and running all week long. So we give you the link. You guys put it on your website, you put it on your Facebook. Well, this is what we recommend. Put it on your website, put it on your Facebook page. You do email blasts probably, or at least through Flock Notes, something, get the word out that way. I always recommend too, give it to your ministry leaders, like ushers, electors, all those guys. Give it to the leaders of those groups, and they can send emails out to their groups. And that kind of takes a little bit off the volunteers. But then the volunteers on the weekend, we ask you guys to do signups at Mass. So the schedule turns off automatically at midnight on Friday, and it turns back on at midnight on Sunday. So while you guys are doing signups at Mass over the weekend, other people aren't going in online and duplicating appointments. So the ask for the volunteers is, I think it's good to have somebody there at the table, but that doesn't always happen. So I guess I'll put it that way. What I'd like to see happen, best case scenario, is volunteers are at the sign up tables at the masses over the weekend, and then somebody after the last mass enters those guys in before midnight on Sunday.
That's your own program, like we use Sign Up Genius. Is that?
Yeah, it's our own.
So we worked really hard to get our parishioners to like utilize Sign Up Genius, especially with COVID and our festival and things like that.
Yeah,
And now that is how we even have our volunteer coordinators help to get people signed up. Could we do our own sign up through Sign Up Genius that people already kind of know?
yeah, I've had that conversation before, and the answer is kind of a workaround in that, yes, but I would also like you to keep our online schedule updated. So it'd be a duplicate, you know? So,
And you said Tuesday through Friday is from 2:30 or 2 to 8:30?
Yep.
And what is Saturday?
10:30 to 5.
And
Sorry,
we can
Clyde.
adjust those, and we can adjust those hours a little bit too. If you have mass at 5 o'clock, for example, on Saturday, and you want us to wrap up by 4, we could start a half hour early on Saturdays. So we can adjust those hours a little bit too, depending on your needs too. So.
Well, that's one of the questions I had is like, I can see people being willing to take some pictures after mass. So to take them like after we have a 5 p.m. mass on Saturday, to be there until 7 o'clock to take some pictures, that they'd be willing to come to mass, and we're going to beg them to be in this directory. Okay, fine. We'll go to 5 p.m. mass. Can we get a picture taken after mass? Is that
we would just start later in the day if we would adjust the Saturday schedule. Then they work straight through. There's no breaks built in. So we have to honor the labor laws and things like that. So we typically run about a 6.5 to 7 hour shift at the longest. So again, we would just, if that makes sense, we could look at adjusting that, and wouldn't maybe necessarily need to be every Saturday either. It's something.
Yeah, just a couple.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I unfortunately have to leave for my other meeting, so I'm sorry I have to leave.
Thanks, Amanda.
Bye, Amanda.
Thank you,
Bye,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
This might be kind of a dumb question, but how many sessions on average do you offer for photos? I mean, do you have like a formula of we offer this many days for a parish this size, or do you add days based on signups, or how do you approach?
Well, that's what I was referring to the other gentleman. So say our expectation is to photograph, hopefully our goal is 100 families. Right now, I would initially give 3 days to start. That gives us up to 105 time slots. With averages, we're probably going to photograph about 90, but that gets us real close. We with the pandemic, we've been scheduling a little bit on the conservative side too, but we're more than willing to add more days. So say you fill those 3 days and you've had great turnout and you need an extra day, we'll add on another day. And like Brett said, we typically don't photograph on Sundays and Mondays. Sundays for obvious reasons. But I use the Monday a lot as an add-on day. So if I have a church scheduled for 5 days and they need a 6th day, we'll know that about 2-3 weeks in advance, most likely. So we may just open up that Monday for them. That way we can still do all the photography in 1 week. Or we could always look at adding on the following Monday, and they would just leave everything up through the weekend. So we use the Mondays a lot for an add-on day. So
Okay.
Yeah, we just finished St. Michael, St. Mary, and Stillwater. And, we started, I think, with 18 days conservatively. And we ended up adding another, I think, 4 more days, and they filled those too. So,
good.
Yeah. You had another question, Jody? I saw you start. No? Okay.
Oh, no, I was just kind of doing the math of like, so 100 is like an example. If we're like our parish is around 1,100 families, if we're expecting 50%, do we automatically start with like 5 days? Was what I was sort of working
Well,
through.
no, if your goal then is about 500 families then to be photographed, correct then? So
yeah, I guess then you would do, if you do 3 to 100, you do 15.
Yeah, you'd be looking at 14 days, 15 days initially, right in that range, give or take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Friends, I have to leave as well. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate the
Thank you,
information.
Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey,
Thank
Chris.
you. Nice meeting you.
You got to consider part of the ROI is connecting with the people, whether they come in or not.
Oh, no, I'm not discounting any of that at all.
No. It was a good
Don't
question. It just
Don't
stuck in my
misunderstand
mind.
my question.
No.
I'm
No.
just curious how well it works.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
Very
that's
good question.
all right.
Thank
Thanks, you guys.
Nice to
Thank
meet you.
you.
Chris.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, to be mindful of time, I know a few people had to jump off here. Brett and Clyde, would you mind just typing your emails into the chat box there for anybody who would like to follow up with any questions? And
Sure.
I can send it out with a follow-up when I send this recording out for anyone who wasn't able to make it, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. If you want to
I've
add
got
our
both of them.
contact information, email and cell phones, that would be terrific.
Yep, I can do that. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, just so you know, Clyde has the western side of the cities. I have the eastern side. He's got like Dakota, Hennepin up that way, and I've got the other edge. I go all the
Ramsey.
way up. Yeah, I've got Ramsey, and I mean all the way up to Cook, Minnesota, actually. So,
Awesome.
all right. Yeah, but you give my number to anybody. I always say that.
Well, thank
Thank
you both so much for being here. I think this was really helpful to just hear about the whole process and answer all of the questions. And
Yeah.
I think it sounds like a great opportunity for us to start exploring again. So
Thank you so much for having us. I didn't
Yes,
expect
thank you
it to
for
go
having us.
the
We
whole
appreciate
time.
it.
It was great.
perfect.
Yeah. Nice to see you, Michaela.
Thank you. Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.